Welcome to Review Nation. Today we are finally doing that Slayer album ranking people have been voting for over 2 months. Slayer won the poll 2 months ago. Slayer was like the gateway to metal for me because I absolutely adore their stuff. So this is definitely one of the hardest rankings I've ever had to do. This list is completely subjective. What I want you guys to do is also comment below your Slayer ranking. So let's get on with the weakest Slayer album, and that is Undisputed Attitude. This album is terrible. The songs are all covers. I think we've one original song, but it's just all punk. Fucking hate punk. I think punk is horrible. And why would Slayer want to do something like this? Absolutely the worst album by Slayer in my opinion. There is no good songs on this album. Each song goes about 2 to 3 minutes. Abysmal album by this band. And for them to produce an album as Undisputed Attitude, it's just a spit in the face for every Slayer fan out there. I'm sure a lot of your fans hate this album. One of the worst metal albums of all time, in my opinion. This is an abomination. I've heard it about 2 or 3 times, and I just can't like it. Tom's vocals are terrible on this. Absolutely terrible. He just shouts. The production is absolutely terrible on this album. Slayer didn't have a very good 2 years running, that's for sure. So coming in is DIABOLUS in MUSICA. What abysmal album again by Slayer. This album is like their take on new metal. I swear you got some new metal riffs. I mean, the instrumentals are pretty good. Don't get me wrong, Bitter Peace is a pretty good song as well. Death's Head's good as well. I do like Desire. The album isn't cohesive. It doesn't flow very well. It's like Slayer wanted to follow that popularity train, and that was new metal. There are a lot of new metal elements throughout. This is a very different sound by Slayer. Surely they incorporate elements of thrash now and again. This isn't a very good album. It's not a very good album by Slayer. I'm sure a lot of you will agree that DIABOLUS in MUSICA is definitely not everyone's cup of tea. Tom's vocals are okay, but he just tries to start to rap as well. I mean, why would he want to rap? They wanted to go on the popularity train on new metal. Fuck off. Okay, so this is all the albums that I absolutely love now, and this was very hard to rank them because I do love this album, I really do. Coming in at number 10 is Repentless, their latest album. Oblivious until the end, you never stop chasing, yeah. Innocence, common sense. This was a fantastic farewell by Slayer. This was Slayer's last album. It is a killer album, it really is. I absolutely love Repentless. I really enjoyed Chasing Death. Vices is an incredible song. So overall there are some really good songs, and it sounds like Slayer harnesses that true thrashy sound again. But what is lacking on this album? I feel like this album doesn't flow well. The repeat factor on Repentless isn't there, to be honest. There are so many better albums than Repentless in my opinion, and I do love the element of surprise throughout this album. I just feel that Repentless lacks in certain things, certain elements, like even all the production. Production's pretty good. It's probably maybe too crisp in my opinion. Repentless is still a very good album. I really like it. It's coming in at number 9. I absolutely adore this album. It's Christ Illusion. This album is absolutely fantastic. I love how heavy this album is, and Tom's vocals on this album are just fantastic. Not to mention the drumming on this album is intense. And Jihad, one of my favorite Slayer songs of all time. It's amazing watching Jihad live. Skeleton Christ is another great song. It flows very well. The reason why it's so low is because I feel that's definitely one of the weakest albums of the new Slayer albums in my opinion. Just because you got some filler songs, but those filler songs really flow well within the album itself. So there's nothing much I can complain about it. Okay, so coming in at number 8 is World Painted Blood. Another killer album, really do enjoy it. I think I prefer this one than the other albums mentioned just because it's got World Painted Blood, an amazing opener, nearly as good as Angel of Death. World Painted Blood is such an awesome opener, and this album just flows really cohesively, and this is why I prefer this album a lot more. And this album feels fun. I think it's just a stellar album by Slayer, and there are some really cool songs like Human Strain And even Playing with Dolls is a fantastic song, not to mention that awesome drumming throughout that song. The drumming's really good. I love the guitar work as well throughout this album. It's very thrashy, and Tom's vocals are really cool on this album. So coming out at number 7 is God Hates Us All. God hates us all! God hates us all! This album is a very controversial album. This album was released on 9/11 back in 2001. I adore this album. I was actually going to bring it up higher just because of nostalgia factor on this album. Then I said, is it as good as the other albums I'm going to mention? It's right up there. We got Disciple, God Hates Us All. I absolutely love Tom's vocals throughout this album. They are so intense. The actual instrumentals on this album are so damn, it's like a throwback to the really old days of Slayer. This album flows very well, and to end off the album's Payback, Here Comes the Pain. Incredible album in my opinion. I love it. It is the year 1994 and they released Divine Intervention. And that is coming at number 6. It's a really enjoyable album, really interesting album overall, but I just adore it. And this album really grew on me over time. It was definitely one of my least favorite albums once. It's smack down in the middle now. It's got an awesome repetitive factor, this album. Sex Murder Art is a really short song. I absolutely love Ditto Head. The vocals on that song is incredible. Mind Control. Slayer is thriving throughout this album. And Slayer is just like invincible. Killer songs over and over again throughout Divine Intervention. Coming in at number 5 is Show No Mercy. Oh, okay. So this is the first ever Slayer album. I love this album. I really do. It really bothered me putting it at number 5 because these are the albums that are really that close to each other. I love Show No Mercy. This was my first ever Slayer album as well, so that's why it's really high. I love the song Die by the Sword. Die by the Sword. And that riff. I absolutely love Black Magic. The Final Command, Show No Mercy to end off the album. It's just overall such a tight and cohesive album, incorporating elements of even black metal, blast beats, the tremolo pickings. It's one of the darkest albums by Slayer, and this is their debut album, and it's a banger. It really is. That's why it's so high up on the list, because it's just one of the best debut albums in my opinion. So coming at number 4, absolutely adore this album again, but I feel it's slightly better than Show No Mercy because it's a lot more darker, and we're talking Seasons in the Abyss. Dance with the dead in my dreams. Listen to the hello. Now, a lot of people would have this quite high, and this is quite high. It's on number 4, but some of these songs are absolutely amazing. Like, all these songs are pretty killer in my opinion. I absolutely love Dead Skin Mask, Expendable Youth, War Ensemble. What an incredible song that is live. Tom's vocals are so damn intense throughout this album. Surely it's a little bit slower than the other Slayer albums, but it's definitely one of the most darkest and horrific albums by Slayer, and I wish Slayer would continue to produce albums like this over and over again, because they were so damn consistent throughout those years, and Seasons of the Abyss was definitely a game changer, definitely for metal, as other bands were influenced by this new Slayer sound. Okay, so a lot of people would have this first, but in my opinion, this is sitting on 3rd. It's Rain in Blood. And I love this album, I really do, but in my opinion, I just feel like this album is slightly overrated and overhyped. Surely this album is very loud. It's one of the loudest albums. It's just banger after banger. Postmortem's a fantastic song. Angel of Death is definitely the best opener of any album in my opinion. It's absolutely amazing. And then at the end you got Raining Blood, but it's a really short album as well. I think it's a 30-minute album, and this is definitely Slayer's most brutal album in my opinion, because just how fast and heavy, and Tom's vocals are just so damn intense, not to mention the guitar solos, the drumming. Rain in Blood is sitting on third because I feel like there are two other albums that are slightly better than Rain in Blood. I'm not getting forced putting Rain in Blood on number one just because people want me to put Rain in Blood in number one. A lot of people would put Rain in Blood in number one, but I like to go to the other albums that will be mentioned. Play these albums more than Rain in Blood. Coming at number two is Kerry King Hates this album, but I fucking love this album. It is Rain in Blood 2, so they really slowed and toned it down, and it was a lot more slower, and it was a lot more melodic. This is definitely up there to be the best Slayer album of all time. South of Heaven, one of the best openers for an album. Nearly as good as Angel of Death. Like, every single song is just a killer and no filler. Even love Cleanser's Soul, and Kerry King Hates that song. I absolutely love Mandatory Suicide, guitar solos throughout this album. It's just a match made in heaven in my opinion. In my opinion, the best Slayer album of all time is Hell Awaits. This album is definitely one of the most technical, definitely one of the most proggiest, and definitely one of the most darkest Slayer albums in my opinion. And this is their sophomore album. What can I say about their sophomore album? That this album slays like Slayer. It is friggin' awesome. I love all the songs. Each song is 10. You got Crypts of Eternity, which is like a 6 minutes 40 song. Then you got Hell Awaits, and his vocals and how dark and evil this album sounds. Oh, this album is absolutely incredible. I fucking love that album cover as well. It's just such an intense album. I just can't help but replay this album over and over again. It's like if I listen to Rain in Blood over and over again, I get sick of it. I never get sick of Hell Awaits. Never ever, because every time you listen to this album, you find something new. It's got progressive elements throughout this album, incorporating elements of thrash, amazing guitar solos. Kill Again is an incredible song. At Dawn They Sleep. What an amazing song that is. Hell Awaits is 10 out of 10 album, and I love it. I absolutely love this album. That's why it's my favorite album of all time by Slayer.
Feel the deadly cold, freezes from inside, perceiving your intentions.
Let me know in the comments what you thought about my ranking. Comment below whether you agree with my ranking or not. And also give me your ranking as well. Do you agree that Hell Awaits is the #1 Slayer album of all time? And I highly doubt a lot of people agree about this, but I can't help what I feel. Hell Awaits is #1 for me. So make sure you drop a like if you enjoyed this content, subscribe if you want, and I will see you in the next one.